Welcome to Tech Talks, Evolving Distribution. I'm Corey Hayes, and with me is Bill Rosado. Today, we're exploring how digital transformation is reshaping the distribution industry.
That's right. From e-commerce platforms to CRM tools, we talk with industry experts about how distribution can embrace these changes and thrive in the ever-changing space.
Whether you're just getting started or looking for new insights, we've got you covered. Today's episode is packed with information to help you navigate the digital shift.
So let the tech talk begin.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time you're tuning in. Thank you for tuning in and listening to another episode of Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. Corey Hayes alongside Bill Rosado. Bill, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Super excited about today's conversation. Someone that I've kind of worked closely with to help customers win. So just really excited to have Evan on.
Yeah. Just to tell you guys, I'll let him introduce himself here in just a second, but just tell you guys a little bit about our special guest today, Evan Foster from Conveyance Solutions. Super excited to have you on. Thank you for being here. I met you, I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe at Chicago, or was that last year? I'm not sure. They all kind of
2 years ago.
Okay. And I had some conversation with you, have also worked on you with some projects like the H.A. Gooden product that we had going on, and have always been super impressed with just the level of knowledge that you bring to the table and the temperance that you bring to the table. So yes, I agree with Bill. Super excited to have you on today. How are you doing?
Great. I'm glad to be on here. It's an honor to finally join this podcast that I've heard so much about.
Well, that's just because Bill runs around talking about it all the time. It's not because, anybody else has said anything. Yeah. Well, super excited to have you on. Before we get into the conversation about digital transformation, why don't you just introduce yourself to the listener, to those that have never heard of you, heard of Conveyance Solutions? Tell us a little bit about that and just how you got to where you are and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Evan Foster. I'm a senior sales consultant and one of the partners here at Conveyance Solutions. In a nutshell, our pledge to our customers is to bring top technical expertise with a human touch to industrial distributors, helping them compete in the rapidly evolving digital landscape that we're all in. We primarily do that through our partnership with Epicor. So we sell and service their P21 ERP solution for distributors. On a personal note, I'm a follower of Jesus, a husband to my wife, Rachel, and a father to my almost 1-year-old son. I'm American. My wife is recently American.
Okay.
Australian by birth,
That's
British
cool.
by immigration. She actually moved to Scotland. And an interesting thing that the Scots try to hide from everyone is that there is no Scottish citizenship. You're either a British citizen or you're probably illegal. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So,
yeah, because that's all the UK. So they like to say that they're Scottish, but really that's just nationality. They were subdued a while ago.
That's wild. That's wild. So Australian, English, Scottish, and American. What accent does she have?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. It's a weird Scottish accent.
Okay.
Yeah. Like mostly Scottish because of the words that she uses, but even in Scotland, they'll ask her where she's from.
Yeah, that's funny. That's wild. Well, that's pretty interesting. You don't hear that every day. So,
yeah, absolutely. And in terms of I guess my personal what I like to do, I love coffee, love food.
yeah.
In my free time, you'll probably find me traveling or working on my house. I like skiing and mountain biking, but only get to do that a few times a year.
Yeah.
So.
And where are you located?
I'm located in southern New Hampshire, so
Okay.
about just under an hour north of Boston, Mass.
Okay. So, a fair amount of snow, I guess, fair amount of skiing in those areas. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, we get quite a bit of snow because of the cold currents coming down from the northeast, Nova Scotia area coming down, and then the warm off of the coast or the inland or whatever. It creates that nor'easter.
Yeah.
That's what they call them. And just dump snow occasionally. So
sounds better than what we get in Southern Illinois. We just get corn dust and pollen. So
and wind, right?
Well, thanks for being on today. Really want to get into this conversation of digital transformation, ask you some questions. You can take this whatever direction you want, and we just want to glean from your expertise here. So to start us off, what challenges have you seen just across the board in digital transformation projects of companies that you've worked with and just your firsthand experience?
Yeah, so I mean, we mostly work with P21 implementations, so it's an ERP implementation. These, for most companies, are one of the largest projects they do. It's pretty huge in terms of budget, timeline, risk. So we really see different challenges depending on who you are, right? Your company. So if I break it down really easily into like smaller companies and larger companies, and for ease of for context, we'll say smaller companies are under 50 and larger are over 50. I know SMB goes much higher than 50 users, but we'll just say that because that's kind of the delineation where we find a difference in culture and ownership, and thus in challenges. So with the smaller under 50 users, if you're a distributor, it's probably not uncommon for you to be founder or family owned. You've built this business, bootstrapping, relationships. It's an emotional decision, right? It's really big emotional decision. In terms of your resources, you might not have as much resource or investment backing as some of the PE firms that are consolidating everyone over the last few years. For your IT, you probably are relying on an MSP, third-party IT resources, or maybe you have one person kind of running the IT infrastructure and help desk and all of it. And so most of the people that are involved in these projects for the implementation, they have other jobs already, right? So you run into competing kind of priorities in their day-to-day work. If they have customers coming in, vendors visiting, and they're trying to implement an ERP, which I would say for the duration of the project is probably 20 or 30% of your time that you spend, right? Depending on the intensity of that project. Then you have kind of the culture of the family, right? Decisions can be a little more complicated if there's family dynamics involved, or maybe, like I said, it's an emotional decision. And so they're afraid of losing that direct personal relationship with their customer. Maybe it's the father, founder, giving it over to his son. His son is driving the ERP implementation, but the father still kind of calls the shots and is still involved, but not really. So those are some of the challenges we see in the smaller space. When you go over 100, you start to get more into complexity. So there's more tiers of management you've got to go through, more complicated systems. They might have more integrations. They might have geographical differences. Maybe they've got, a distribution hub in Texas and one in Quebec. And so now you've got different tax compliance. You've got multiple languages with French Canadian in Quebec. You've got maybe import export and all of that. So you get more complexity there. You get much larger data sets. You get more teams, more stakeholders. And so really it comes down to, for the smaller companies, it's capacity and capability that you run into for challenges. And for the larger company, that's more of the complexity that you run into. But they often have, bigger budgets. They're also usually pushing time. So if it is a company that was acquired, most likely they're willing to go fast and they're willing to accept compromises that come with that. Whereas a family-owned company, they tend to want to take their time, and their priority is not speed, but rather kind of like a smooth transition.
Yeah, I think that's
a great insight. I really like that you're breaking it down. The challenge isn't the same, right? It's different depending on how big you are, or, small or big, right? However you want to look at it. That's a really great way to break it down.
Yeah, we find sometimes that the priorities for the different companies change. So we've implemented projects where speed was their priority, and we've implemented projects where accuracy of data was their priority. And if you don't figure out what that is ahead of time, then you can find, whether it's the partner, the implementation partner, or your internal team are trying to push for 100% accuracy, but you're trying to push them for speed, and you're kind of running different directions. So beyond just size and those challenges, there's also just, cultural values.
Yeah. And I think it's just kind of a theme of what you're talking about. What I was going through my mind is, the grass isn't always greener, because I've heard people in projects, and it's like an IT manager somewhere saying, well, if we just had XYZ, well, if we just had this, or if we just were bigger, if we had more resources, And, there are pros and cons to each. So I think that's a good way to highlight it. And I agree with Bill. I like that you broke it down by company size. Not to say that XYZ wouldn't fix the solution or wouldn't fix the problem, would be a solution. But there's pros and cons to each. So I like how you laid it out.
Yeah. And there's always exceptions, right? That's just generally what we see.
Sure. Yeah, that's good.
So when you're looking at those two different, I guess, can you kind of also look at what makes a project successful in the two different tiers, right, of users?
So I think in most cases, the keys to success are the same, right? It's the fundamentals of project management and ERP implementation is the same. How you approach them will be different based on the different sizes because, for example, project management is very important in both. You need a project plan, but how you address it, who you invite to those calls, how detailed it gets really depends on, the company and the needs. But I would say the number one biggest, recommendation for successful ERP implementation is data. It is on basically all of our implementations, it is half of the hours that we quote for a particular implementation project. And you guys being kind of in the e-commerce space, it's probably pretty similar in terms of people always underestimate data. Like if you're a distributor thinking about a new ERP, you should already be working on data hygiene. You should be going and, getting rid of that that little AR that's been sitting there for 2 years. You should merge duplicated items. You should keep your team from creating items at order entry just whenever they need to get the sale placed. You should plan for multiple rounds of data conversion and that process. It's not just you take your data, you put it into the new ERP and you're good to go. There's the validation, the mapping, the testing, and then at least one more round of that. So data management is something that people underestimate. It's like they think that they are ready to move forward. They signed off on the ERP project and they think that it's now just, they just have to get live, but really they're not even at the base of Everest, right? They haven't even started that final hike. And there's a whole nother project within their project that they haven't even thought about yet. So start that soon. And yeah. So
Well,
one.
You just broke the heart of tens of followers that we have that that are really looking to start that and think they're in a good spot. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm just at the base of Everest.
And I'm sure you guys see that with e-commerce, right? I mean,
absolutely.
they think that you can just plug it into ERP and it'll work, right? But if they've got training materials or additional product information that they've got to, lives on the e-commerce side, or custom field mappings or groupings or products, right? All of that takes a lot more work beyond just the integration point, which is often underestimated on how much time and effort it takes.
So it's ironic you say that because we get the question all the time. So, hey, so what do we need to start working on now? And we do. Content data for us, right, is the important piece. And it is all about, hey, start on that early. And some people start on it before we even start the project, right? We're in the middle of talking about starting the project and they're like, hey, we're looking to start in 30 days, but what can we do now? Content data. You're exactly right. Just cleaning up or finding the content data that you need.
Yeah, and to your point, I've heard it as well. People say, "Oh, we're good on data." Like we've already got that all set up.
We've heard that too.
Yeah,
until you get into it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then they start getting into it, and they're like, "Well, this is a lot worse than what we thought." So
you start finding like credit card information in the notes field or the address field.
Yeah. So if I can, and I hate to throw you a curveball right here in the middle, but let's just put a let's take a microscopic look at just data. If we talk about what makes a successful project, yes, having good data, but what have you seen in the realm of data that companies have done that gives them healthy data, and what was the good approach that you've seen to getting good data?
Yeah, that's a good question. So some of it depends on the system they're coming from. And that's probably not a surprise and kind of a surprise to some of you. So like QuickBooks tends to be very minimal in terms of item data. You need like an item ID and a description. That's it. And then you move to an actual like distribution ERP, and now it requires 40 fields. You need like your replenishment methods, your different suppliers, your different costs and prices and matrices and lots and bins and all of that. And so you end up finding yourself that no matter what you really did in QuickBooks, you have to create a bunch of data that didn't even exist. And then there's other ERPs that have they're a bit more distribution savvy. And I would say there's certain processes that you can follow that will help with that. So one is if you have the ability to choose a dedicated person to do item management, whether that's creating all of the items consistently, or they go back and they try to clean up duplicates and merge items and all of that, that really helps. And then if you just delete old stuff, some people have been on an ERP for 10, 20 years, and they've changed their processes, they've adapted, evolved over time, but they still have all that old data they don't even touch. It just clutters the system. If you just get it out of the way, it makes it really easy to, during the conversion, figure out what we need to bring over, right? So a common practice that we do during a conversion would be if a customer hasn't placed an order in 2 years, they have no open orders, or same with the vendors, if they haven't placed a PO or you haven't paid them or anything in 2 years, then we just leave them behind. You can recreate them, right? And that time may change, whether it's a year or 3 years, but it makes it much easier to draw that line if you've been kind of keeping up with it.
Yeah, no, that's great advice.
Yeah, that's some really great insight and great advice. All right, so the most challenging question we'll probably ask you today is what's that biggest tip, right? What's the thing that you would put on a t-shirt that says, hey, this is what you should do right before starting this project?
Yeah, again, lots of tips, but if I had to boil it down to one, it would be just to choose your implementation partner wisely. I mean, if you're planning on doing it internally, that might mean, one person who has done a lot of implementations in their career, has experience with those. If you're outsourcing that, I would say that in most cases, a quality implementation is better than a quality ERP. So if you had to choose between a great ERP and a good implementation, or good implementation and a great implementation and a good ERP, using the tool really well is going to, in most cases, be a better option than just getting the fanciest tool. I've seen cases where we've come in to help someone who's already been on P21 and it's been 2 years, and they've got 6 figures worth of add-ons and e-commerce integrations and all of this stuff they bought, but they never went live with, and they've just been paying for it for all of this time. Even in the systems they're using, they're basically manually entering everything, manually entering prices at order entry. They're not utilizing the system at all. I mean, they may as well have not even changed ERP. So if you have a bad implementation, or you don't have the training you need, or your data was bad, it's just an interface for your data, right? If it's inaccurate, inconsistent, then you may as well just stayed on your old ERP at that point. So it really be just to vet your implementation partners, make sure they've worked with that ERP before, and they fit your culture and understand your values.
I think you said you have several tips. Since we have a wealth of knowledge here when it comes to ERP implementation, I would say we got a few more minutes. Go ahead. Maybe give us a little bit more. Like what would be your second that you would say?
Yeah, I would say that definitely have a project manager. If you're going to do internally, find someone who, most of your team probably has jobs. So find someone who this can be their top priority. If it comes to compromising one responsibility or another, whatever else they're doing should come in second place. Otherwise, it'll just keep dragging on, and time is money with these implementations, right? You're oftentimes paying for both software, the one you're on and the one you're going to. It's split focus and distraction for your teammates. You might be outsourcing some of this work. So choose a project manager, and follow the 80-20 rule. So in most cases, people try to not only create parity, so meet all their current needs, but they try to push a lot of change and enhancements in these projects. But these are huge projects, as we've talked about, right? These are very expensive. They're risky. I'm sure you guys have all seen those articles of large companies botching their implementation, costing millions or billions of dollars. Choose the 80-20 rule, right? Figure out what is the minimally viable product for your company. What are the features you absolutely need? Focus on those. What is good enough for your data, right? Is 95% good enough, or do you need 100%? I mean, it really comes down to timeline. You could take a implementation for a small company. It could last 3-4 years if you have custom software and it needs to look perfect and you don't quite have the time. But it's much more important to get on it and start stabilizing on the new software, start, reducing costs and the double paying for software. And then my final one, I think, for this call would probably be engaged leadership. So I've been on projects as well where the owner or the CEO or president, whoever is running the company, checks in once a month. And when you need a decision made, the people under him aren't really like, knocking heads together, making stuff happen. And it can be really challenging when you're a third party trying to make them reach the objectives that they're giving you, right? We want to go live by this date, but you have absent leadership that just won't, drive change in their business.
Yeah, it's great. It's great input, great advice. I guess the last question I would ask you, just for rolling it out to our customers, how can I find more about Conveyance Solutions? How can I get in touch with you? If I'm looking to start a P21 implementation, I need help. Where do I go to start?
Yeah, our website's the best place, and I'm sure we can drop that right in the description.
Yeah, absolutely. Is conveyancesolutions.com?
Conveyance 365.
I messed it up. Conveyance365.com. Yeah. I'm going to get kicked off. Bill's going to kick me off my own podcast. Yeah. Well,
it's not just to start a project. You guys take over a lot of projects too, correct, Evan?
Yep. We do everything from evaluating Profit 21 if you're thinking about upgrading ERP, through implementation, helping people consolidations, integrations, ongoing support and training. And we kind of do it all when it comes to the P21 space.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of good information that you had displayed out here. And I don't know that I've said this after too many different episodes, but I would encourage you, if you're listening to this episode, probably go back and listen to it maybe once or twice more, because there was a lot of details in there, especially when it comes to things like data, but a lot of good information that you gave us, Evan. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, glad I could be here.
Yeah. Well, as always, thank you for tuning in to Tech Talks, Evolving Distribution. Be on the lookout every first and third Thursday of the month. We have a new episode coming out. Really excited to bring more conversations with partners and distributors alike, and get those conversations out to you. Bill, anything to take us out with?
No, just really want to take the time again, Evan, to thank you for being on the podcast, right, and sharing this with the community. I think it's important, but also thank you for being a great partner, right? We've worked together in projects and have some ongoing projects. So really appreciate everything you guys do.
Absolutely. Looking forward to more.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time here at Tech Talks. Goodbye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. Thanks for tuning in.
And we hope you've gained some valuable insights on how to embrace digital transformation and stay ahead in the distribution industry.
A special thanks to our sponsor, Aldrich Web Solutions, for supporting this podcast. With over 20 years of experience, they've been helping distributors win online and maximize their digital presence. Be sure to check them out if you're ready to take your business to the next level.
And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And of course, share this with anyone who could benefit from this conversation.
We'll be back next time with more expert insights. And until then, keep evolving and embracing change.